Ron. It's so nice to see you. Can you tell me a little bit about you?
Well, first of all, I am the president of Autism Today Foundation, and I've been elected just recently, and it's a pleasure and honor to be part of this board. And I know we have a great amount. We brought new members in. They are fantastic and super. Now, who am I? Well, I've got I've I spent my career in the armed forces as a social worker. Then went from there and moved onward to do different things through my career. Um, I think for myself, as I mentioned, I've been involved with autism for many years because I have a daughter who's autistic, and she's done extremely well. I'm very pleased with her and proud of her for what she's accomplished. But it was quite a struggle at the beginning because it was quite a while ago that she was diagnosed, and she was like 9 years of age, and there was nothing out there. I couldn't find anything because I never heard of autism, and I have a PhD in social work. I never heard of autism. But when she was diagnosed, I certainly said, okay, I got to find out what it is and get everything I know because I've got to serve my daughter well. That's my job as a father. And lo and behold, as I went along, the only thing that was there really was you and the programs and different things that you had put together and books and different things. And I was, you know, with that, I got involved because I had to get involved with Autism Today Foundation because, and with you, because you had helped me so much in the material
Nice.
that you had written. And I felt that I didn't have a choice. The calling was there. I had to give back to you and to autism and to others that were autistic
Can you
and
tell?
neurodiverse. So that's
Okay,
this is my background.
great. Okay. And you also told me one time that, or many times, that you had problems with your spouse admitting that your daughter was autistic. And how can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was once she was diagnosed, right away I accepted the diagnosis. But as a female, it wasn't just the fact that she was diagnosed with autism at that time, Asperger's. She was also diagnosed with a manic depressant as well. So when I spoke to the doctor, I simply said, "Look, she's too young to be on medication for manic depressant. So when that shows its ugly head, we'll address it, but we'll start addressing the autism right away and meeting that need." And so that's what we did. But what happened with my ex-wife, may I be very clear to that? What had happened was she every time they would have an argument, my ex would say, oh no, she's acting this way here because she doesn't like me. She's being defiant. I said, well, no, she's autistic. You're approaching her the wrong way. I mean, treat her with kindness and dignity, and you're going to get a long ways. And of course, she couldn't do it. Everything was her fault. She was out. She didn't like me, and this and that. And it got to a point where I had to send them off to private school, both her and my other daughter. I sent them both in order mainly to protect my daughter's her not so much physical, but also the fear of it, but also psychological was the main one. I had to protect her for that, and I had did this, and she now has done very well. She's now went to university, took engineering, graduated, and but since then, we have grown apart, myself and my wife, a number of years ago, and we separated and divorced, where I began to address the issue with my kids, my
Can
daughters,
you?
uh,
Can,
firsthand. That was my primary responsibility, and that's what I did.
nice. Can you tell me about the World Autism Summit? I know you were part of that, and
Yes.
talk about the membership, program that's being put in place for all the people to understand autism at a deeper level.
Well, I would love to talk about that because it's a very important project that we wanted to pursue. What it is, we had about 50, about altogether about 80 videos that were done with interviews that we had done through the conference because it was a 7-day conference. what we're going to do is take all those videos and we're going to place it into Vimeo, excuse me. And what we're going to do is put a membership. Now, when I say to you that we're putting those 80, there's much more content and more coming all the time. And so the fee, we had to put a membership fee, but every cent that we collect goes to Autism Today Foundation. It's $29.99. It really is a good deal, and it will help you an awful lot. And we'll constantly adding new material, new videos, new everything we're putting into this. So it's not just standing still. And it's going to be a very educational, and I think it's very exciting
I get
for myself
to-
that we're process that we're doing. And I'm looking forward to getting this here complete and on the go. So I want people to know that it's going to be there. It's only $29.99 per month, and it's a great deal, and it's worth it.
Okay, can you talk to me about the 7 areas that you covered during the 7-day conference?
Yeah, the 7 areas was from cradle to grave, so to speak, and because we wanted to get every single part of the life of from a baby with autism right to as an adult, as a senior citizen. And we wanted to go through the process. So we broke it into 7 separate stages. Now, if I can do this and tell you that the first one was early intervention, the right track. What we tried to do is get the parents to understand there's the first stage. And, early intervention is the key. The sooner that you can get your child uh, assessed and diagnosed, the better the results are going to be, okay, for your child. Um, Next one is adolescence and health. And it's just taking care of nurturing roots and different things like this here. But it's extremely important to address that. It's very important. So it's adolescence. And what is that is dealing with that? As you know, adolescence can be even a teenager going from the age of 12 up to teenage years, which are for a lot of people, no matter what it is, it's very challenging. The next one that we deal with is school, education, and career. So what we want to do is look at what is there in the school, what is available for those with autism, was available in the community college, which is available in the universities that can really help that your child to uh, guide, go through the system and understand what's happening. It's a guide process of what we do. So we had a number. So the next one was vocation and employment. What we really wanted was to find employment for those with autism and neurodiversity, not a job, but a career, not part time, but we wanted it to be in a full time role. So we begin to look at this and access it and find out how can we do this on this section. Now we're going to look at money and finances for the next one. Well, the reason what we do here is we talk about money and finances in the sense that it pertains to your child with autism neurodiversity, because sometimes parents forget, and I understand because they got a lot on their plate. They got so much on their plate. What we try to do is prepare the parents for the future. And what that means is that you are not going to last forever. You are going to grow old down the road, and you may not be able to take care of your child. If this is the case, who is going to do it if you're not going to? So what we're going to do is look at programs that are out there by the federal government, provincial government, and that are raising money, and the government will match it. So it's a federal government, they have a program for that, and they'll match the amount of money, and you put so much in per year, and that way there it builds up, and then it compounds interest, and then by the time they get to an age, there's enough money that's there to take care of them for when they do get old. and the parents get old and they cannot take care of their child, but you still worry about your children. The next one is gifts, strengths, creativity, and talents. Um, in with autism today, we don't focus on their deficits. We don't look at them as having a problem. They're not well, not normal, so to speak. We look upon them as being healthy and nothing wrong with them. We look at their strengths, we look at their gifts, we look at their creativity, we look at all these things. We focus on the positives, not the negatives. And this is important because I firmly believe that every child that I've ever met with autism, verbal or nonverbal, to a certain extent. I mean, there's ones that are very extreme, but most, even if they're nonverbal, which 50% of us that age are in that vicinity, they're extremely bright, above average, and they are they can't get it out verbally. And so we provide tools and we talk to them about what tools are there to help the child be able to express what is in his head, what is there he's thinking, and express it we can't do verbally. So we talk about that and point out those positives. As I mentioned earlier, I can tell you so many people, friends of mine and different ones that are like children are autistic. My daughter is an engineer. My friend of mine has a son who's autistic. He's a dentist. And but to tell you something, we all are different. Those with autism, they're different. But I'm different. You're different. And so what we do is we accept those differences and work within their differences. That's what we do. The last one is living plans and community. And that goes towards the end. We got to put towards a living plan that while they're young and living, and when they get to teens and we get to be in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s, when you're not able to take care of your child, we set a program aside, money aside to take care of your child, that they're going to be okay, that you don't have to worry in your old age, because you got to do that. Because I mean, my children are in their mid 30s and I still worry about them. I still call them my two girls, my babies. They're not babies, but and I always worry about them, where they're at, what they're doing. I speak with them. So I know it's like to be a parent. I know what it's like
So
to
on the note about the two girls, can you tell us a bit about the two girls that you recently met?
yes, there is two young ladies. They are both autistic, and they have a business, and they are brilliant. They are absolutely stunningly brilliant. They formed a company, and what they do is they realize that, like they did, that they didn't want it, they couldn't work for other people. They need to work for themselves. So they create a business in order to help others who are autistic. And most that I met don't want to work for somebody else. They want to work for themselves. And one would be your son, an example. He wants to work for himself and have his own business, set his hours, and do these things. And there's more like him than there are that there are probably than you think. So what they do is they help the individual in order to help them on how to create a business, what to do, prepare them, and they do a lot of different things, make sure they succeed. It is
Nice.
a well ran program, well thought out, and I'm very, very proud to have met them. That they're going to make a big difference
And they're
in the
going to work with
autistic.
autism today.
Yes, they are. They've agreed, and they're excited to work with us as we're excited to work with them. And it's a match made in heaven, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, the
And
alignment is very good.
yes.
Okay, can you tell me about iSocial, what iSocial is?
Well, iSocial is a program that we were very fortunate to come across. And they've agreed to work with us and partner with us in their own way in order to help individuals with autism. They put them in sixes, in a group of six, and it's online. There's 32 sessions, and they teach them. One is self-esteem, resiliency, communication. They teach them all the things that they need to have in order to be, for instance, to be to start their own business, but in order to be a leader, maybe a manager, is what these type of things. And this is a great program to prepare them for the other program with the girls. They go hand in hand, like a hand in a glove. And once we put it there, we can prepare through iSocial them to go and work at a job and to be a manager in order to training. And they get the skills, they get to know, for instance, cues, verbal cues, what's happening. They're taught that, and to understand that and what things are meaning. So they become a manager because they're very bright for that, and they can do it, and they have done it. And so that's what that is. And so they can do it on their own. Just start to work with a business. Nothing wrong with that. Or those who want to go on their own and start their own business. This will help to prepare them. But they go to the young ladies to go through the program of building a business of their own and getting it working appropriately.
Okay.
And by the way, they're guided as well. They're not let free. They're guided and helped straight through.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds great. So now I think it's time for you to ask me some questions.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Oklahoma. I was raised in Florida, Miami, Florida. I joined the Air Force. I became a gemologist. I used to travel the world because my mom worked for Pan American Airlines and we got free tickets. So it was pretty good to go all over the world. Yeah. And that was my passion, was gemology. I love diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and all those good things. I started having my own gems, which were my kids. And when I moved to Canada and I had it's actually my fifth child, he was diagnosed with autism. And I also had the experience of having a spouse who didn't really understand what it was and didn't want to understand, because nobody could have autism that, was his son. So anyway, he's not with us anymore, my late husband, but he did take a very, very long time to come around and to understand autism. I think when Jonathan was 14 years old, he noticed that he was sitting in the back of the room and reading on his own. And that was when he started to realize that he was different, or would acknowledge it. That I started Autism Today, and I wanted to change the world. And I wrote one book called Little Rain Man, Autism Through the Eyes of a Child. And it was, the book was meant to be like a guide for parents and educators to understand who my son was at that time, because nobody really understood. They couldn't recognize the signs. They didn't know what was going on. So then that led me to write other books and write more books. And I started conferences, and ultimately I wrote 14 books, and I hosted 72 conferences, 73 with the World Autism Summit. So I love conferences. I love meeting people, and I love the autism world. You might even say I kind of stem out on autism in a sense. That's a little bit about me.
Something you had mentioned about you being in the jewelry business. And that's very important for my next question. You got a program which you're starting. It's called Donate the Family Jewels. Tell me about that.
Yes, okay. Donate the Family Jewels came out of the idea that people can donate what they want to donate, not just cars, not just, like junk or anything like that. But a lot of times people don't know what to do with the scrap gold or silver that's in grandma's jewelry box. And we thought what would be really good is to give them the opportunity to be able to do something with that and help the foundation, because each penny, like you'd mentioned, goes into the foundation to help move it along, move the needle of understanding around autism and neurodiversity the fastest way possible globally. That's what we're doing. And we're doing it through education. We're doing it through training. We're doing it by focusing on those 7 areas. And, there's so, like you had mentioned, there's so many ways that we focus, but the most important thing is that we focus on the gifts, strengths, and talents of people with autism and neurodiversity. And that's why way back in 1998, we chose to have a star as our brand, because we didn't want to have a puzzle, because we didn't feel like there was anything wrong with people with autism. I wanted everything to happen for my son so he could be sitting on the playground playing happily in the yard. I want him to grow up being happy. I want every single aspect of all of my children's lives to turn out wonderful. So the idea of putting him in an institution just did not set well with me. So I've been doing, anyway, back to the donate the family jewels. What people do is they would, if they had any scrap gold, they take that and put it in a parcel, and we'll cover the shipping as long as it's over a certain amount. We'll cover the shipping cost, and then we will take that gold and then we send it into our refiners, and then they will give us the money to run the organization. And then after that, we will give a charitable tax receipt based on the fair market value of that material that you send in. So if you have some gold, some silver, even parts of gold and silver that are just sitting around, grandma's old ring or, anything like that, then we'll take that and we can take that as a donation. You get a charitable tax receipt for it. I don't know, there's a lot of different things in there, but I think it's important for people to have options and different ways that they can donate rather than cash. Cash is tight.
I think you're 100% correct. They give options and different things. And I think it's a great program, both for them to get a tax receipt or to get money, so to speak. The next thing I want to ask you about is about autism from the soul. That's something that you brought up to me. I'd like to hear about that.
Okay, well, I don't know if you knew it, but I was a Chicken Soup for the Soul co-author of
Right there.
This book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Children with Special Needs, with Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, and Heather McNamara. And so this is filled with, I think it's around 90 stories, and they can only hold 90 to 100 stories, these books. At the time that Mark and Jack and I and Heather were running the campaign, we put a template in place so people could give us permission to share stories as part of the process. And so they gave permission for Autism Today to share the stories that they wrote, whether we put them in the book or whatever we wanted to do. And so if you can imagine, we got flooded with thousands of stories. We got 4,900 and some odd stories, and we had to grade the stories on a 7, 8, 9, 10 level, how good they were, what category they fit in. Really, really a very detailed way of evaluating the stories. So I have about 4,900 some odd stories that other people need to hear. They're beautiful stories. They're heart-wrenching stories. They're all kinds of stories of success, stories of challenges, stories of situations. In fact, in the Chicken Soup for the Soul book, we started out with a story it's called Mr. Welcome to Holland. Yeah, and it's a story about a woman who was planning a trip to Italy, and she had everything picked out for Italy. She had her high heels, she had her fancy skirt, her black leather vest, and she had everything all decked out in the maps and everything. She's ready to go to Italy. She gets on the plane and she's talking to different people. So finally the plane lands, and it lands in Holland. And she gets off the plane and she's like, what? Where in the heck am I, And they all said, well, you're in Holland. And she started looking around, and she said, she was very upset at first because she didn't want to go to Holland. She wanted to go to Italy. All of her friends were going to Italy. They were talking to each other and they were saying how great it was in Italy and how fantastic the food was and how wonderful the wine was. But we ended up in Holland. So then she just decided to change the way she thought about Holland. And she picked up a map and she got a map of Holland. She started learning about windmills and tulips and all the different things and the joys of Holland. So the moral of the story is that, if you change the perspective about where you are in life, you can learn to embrace where you are and where you land. So landing in Holland can be a good thing too. And it's just framing it the right way and seeing it through that lens, as opposed to seeing it as a disappointment.
It's a great story. It truly is. It talks about, changing on the go
Yeah.
and changing your attitude and focusing, being positive. But there's, you talked about the stories, and you got about 4,900 still left to go. So it sort of brings me to the next question I have, just about a newsletter.
Huh?
And tell me about the newsletter that you're contemplating, that you're going to do.
Yeah, I want to share these stories with the world, and I want other people to share their stories too. So we're making a format where they can read the stories, enjoy the stories, and also contribute their own stories and pictures and videos. So we can also share those stories with everyone. And it'll be a very easy, seamless way of sharing stories. And then we'll also archive them so that people can find them later. I remember the time that we had the Tuesday news, and the Tuesday news was a newsletter. We sent it out every week, every Tuesday, religiously. And we did it for years and years. And then things started drifting away with Autism Today, and we shifted some of our focus and we got away from doing the Tuesday news. And we started getting complaints because people said, well, where's the news? I need to have the Tuesday news, because they looked forward to it. They wanted to understand what was going to happen next, and they wanted to hear other stories. So watch for a blog and a newsletter and lots of stories and lots of news, because we want to cover, from start to finish, the whole rainbow, the whole spectrum of solutions.
And I think as well, it lets parents and others know they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
That, because a lot of parents that I've picked up, they feel they're isolated and alone. And this will give them an opportunity to know they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
That they can read this and share with others as well. Now, the next question I got, there's a program that you're looking at, it's called Bounce, Resiliency. So I want you to tell me about this.
I know you think it's funny. A lot of people go, what? Bounce? What does that mean? I'm like, well, okay. I don't know. Maybe that is a good title. Maybe it isn't, but it's always interesting to think up different ideas. It's about resiliency, and it's about employers and employees and working together and living in that interim space, navigating that interim space where the employer and the employee are trying to create a relationship. One with autism and or neurodiversity, and an employer from the old school, let's call it. The way that it used to be, when you went in and you sat down and you had a resume and you filled it all out, and then it was all templated and it's all old-fashioned. We want to change that mindset. We want it to be resilient. We want people to understand each other. We want to teach the employers and the employees both sides of the equation, or maybe there's even multiple sides to the equation of what is work, what is creating value in one's life. Is it a job, at a big corporation, or is it a job, or is it a company that you own yourself, that your parents helped build up? There's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of people that have gifts, strengths, and talents, and we want to squeeze the lemon, squeeze the juice, the orange juice out, and find these gifts, strengths, and talents that people with autism have. We know that they have wonderful gifts. They're on time. They're very focused. They're dedicated. They're supportive. There are so many wonderful traits that can fit right into a corporate life, or maybe it's something that a person with autism would create themselves. So this conference is planned to be what we're gonna present at our World Autism Summit in 2024. I like the name Bounce because it just pulls up a great big picture of a big rubber ball. And it's fun, it's playful, it's energetic, and it defines the space between employers and employees.
I want you to know, I want to let everyone know, you've heard it first from here, that Autism Today is considering very strongly a conference or a summit of the 2024. So it's going to be very exciting. So there we got. You got the news firsthand.
Right on.
Next question was, you're talking to me about a search and list. What exactly is that? What do you have in mind there?
Okay, back in the day, when I first started Autism Today, it was all about connecting the dots, connecting the parents and professionals with each other by state, by province, by location, because that was my biggest challenge is where do I go? Where do I go to find information about the school? Or where do I go to find information about sensory training or behavioral strategies or communication challenges or any one of these multitude of different challenges that people with autism and their parents have around understanding what to do and how to best manage and raise a child with autism or guide them in the right direction. So that was what that is, and that was before Google. So we had like a little search and list. So it'd be like search for the professional by location, and then it would say who they are. They're a parent, are they a professional, are they a teacher, are they a person with autism? Who is it that's actually trying to find the resources that they need to find? And that was before Google came out with Google. So that's what that is. And we want to bring it back. It's there, it's built into part of the functionality, but it needs to be streamlined and updated and really put to the test to help people find what they need to find.
So I think what you're saying is you're going to be doing this in essence from state to states of different ones and look at different communities, so to speak, and in order to help parents who are going through, their child is going through autism or neurodiversity, in order to find what is there for them. So they don't have to scrape along and try to find something. So it's going to be there for them to help them to go and find what they need for their child.
It's helping them find the needle in the haystack.
Yes.
Because there's so many haystacks out there of information that it's very difficult to navigate. If it's for girls, is it going to be, where can we go to find the information for girls with autism? Because if you go to Google, like what happens? You get lost in space. And it's so deeply buried, that information, that it's very difficult to find.
Yes, I do agree with you because in the early days, it was much easier to find stuff. Today, when I go on Google and look for stuff, it is so complicated because there's so much there. You're right. Now, I'm glad to hear you talk about search and list what you're going to be doing, and that's going to be quite the project. And I know you have the team that's there that's going to help out and do this through the board. So I'm quite pleased, and that this is something that we will be doing, and that's something that the parents should be excited about. And I know that I am, and I know you are as well. Now, I got one more question. It's about Mondo Pato. Tell me about Montepato. What is that? What exactly is that?
Okay, well, we actually have experts and professionals that we talk to and have relationships with and want to build that out more. We have a free connection to Mundo Pato so that they can go, like I can connect these experts, and they have like a $6 million platform, and it's a way that they can be on the cloud and contribute their information and their course and all their course content to the world in a very interactive way to universities, hospitals, and clinics.
Now, I want to thank you. That's my last question that I have, Karen. I want to thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy, busy schedule. And I do appreciate everything. Okay.
Well, thank you, Ron. It's greatly
My pleasure.
appreciated. I want to thank you too for doing what you're doing. You're the president of this organization, and I know you are going to do a spectacular job running this organization. I have faith in you.
I certainly hope so. I'm glad that you have great expectations of me, but you know, I know I'll do fine. But it's quite a hill to climb to reach that what you expect of me. But I will do it. I will work very hard to reach it.
I hear you have a lot of really, really good helpers, like people that are on the board now.
I do. In fact, they're absolutely fantastic. I have spoken with them. We had a board meeting, and it was simply tremendous. I was so pleased. The amount of expertise and great ideas, and it was just really, really absolutely wonderful. It was an honor.
We have Dr. Stephen Shore, Ronald Caissie, Dr. Alan Kadish, Sharon Freed, Dr. Sharon Freed, Sharia Reed, Bob Etzel, and Marcia Eckert. They're wonderful, wonderful people, 2 psychologists and 1 MD, and the head of iSocial.
Yes.
And some other.
And you have me, the PhD in social work.
Dr. Stephen Shore I have as well. And Dr.
Yes.
Stephen Shore is the one who worked with me on the School of Rock program that we put together for the School of Rock. And in fact, we're going to be presenting at the School of Rock convention in Nashville, Tennessee. That's on May the 1st through the 3rd. So I'm so excited about that. That's going to be so much fun.
Erin, I'm envious. I'm envious of you and Stephen. I really am. And I know you do a tremendous job for the School of Rock and for Autism Today. And so I want to thank you. I know it's in the evening we're doing this, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I really want to thank you.
Thank you too. Okay.
My pleasure. Bye now.
Bye now.